DNA Clarity and Support. I'm your host, Brian. Listen as I chat with authors and leaders in the DNA world about the family and personal impacts of DNA testing. You'll hear news stories, unique perspectives, find out about books, websites, organizations, other podcasts for those involved in the world of DNA. Please be sensitive to younger listeners as the conversations can get intense at times. This is a production of Watershed DNA. Learn more at watersheddna.com. Welcome to the DNA Clarity and Support podcast today. Ed and Cami, you guys are a unique pair for being guests on the podcast because I've never interviewed a father and daughter before. So I'm really grateful for you guys to join me today, and I'm looking forward to asking my questions.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
So how I first came to know of you, Cami, was through your father, Ed. And for a period of years, I ran an online support group called the Watershed DNA Mighty Network. And Ed was a part of that group. It was pretty soon after his surprise discovery that he had a daughter that he didn't know existed. You are that daughter. And Ed has written as a guest blogger on the Watershed blog. And I wanted to invite you guys on today so we could hear a little bit more about your story directly from you. Because here we are, how many years later after you guys have known of each other, come to find out of one another? 5 years, 5.5?
Yeah.
About 5.5 years, yeah.
So right before we started recording, you were starting to tell me a little bit about how the discovery happened, when it happened. And it was in 2020. Late in the year. So that was the year of the pandemic. We all remember the lockdown year. So tell me how that happened, how you came to know of one another.
Yeah, I'll start since mine was a little bit earlier than when my dad or Ed was aware of it. I actually received a message through 23andMe. It was about 2018. And the message was, hey, we are really related and I have no idea who you are. And we have a really big family and we're really close. So I'm really interested, like, how do we know each other? How do I know you? And come to find out, the message was from my cousin. Her daughter was looking for her father and we matched up as really close cousins. And I, didn't want to scare anybody. I knew I was looking for my dad, but also knew, hey, I'm not looking to, wreck families. I'm not looking to cause problems. So I was just very cautious and slow. And I said, I don't know a lot about my dad's family and I'm trying to find out some medical information and some history. And so I was just really, really cautious and slow, whereas my cousin was extremely fast and persistent. And she was like pedal to the metal and like, hey, I'm interested in learning more about you. And so we really took our time getting to know each other. And as things were kind of progressing for the first time in all the years that I've been trying to find my dad, things started moving very fast. And then her husband died suddenly and unexpectedly. And it was really, really traumatic. And we had a couple FaceTime calls. We had really, texted back and forth, emailed back and forth. So I already started to get to know her and things just stopped at that point. And I felt really bad asking about anything else because she was grieving and it was such a traumatic, her husband dying was so terrible. And it also resulted in her having problems with the son that they were adopting from Haiti. And so there was like really not a good time, I felt. And I felt, this has to take a back burner. And so a whole year went by before I brought it up again, believe it or not, because I just didn't feel appropriate. And then we were chatting one day and I brought it up and she said her mom, who is my aunt, Ed's sister, was willing to take a DNA test. And the funny thing is that we thought that my father was actually on the other side of the family. Maybe my aunt's ex-husband or something like that. And so it didn't seem pretty scary at that time because it wasn't so close to home. And then when my aunt did take the DNA test and the results came back, she matched up as my aunt on my father's side. We were like, oh, okay, well, this is interesting. Now it just became her monkey, her circus. And she was a little bit more concerned, and we slowed down a little bit. And she said to me, I don't really know how all this DNA works. And I'm a little hesitant. I have two brothers, and, we also had a father. I might have other brothers I don't know about. So I'm really careful to talk to anybody about this. But I do feel like you and I should meet in person before we go any further. And I felt like that was completely fair. And this was around October, November of 2020. And so I said, can I come and meet you? And she said, yeah, let's do that. And so my husband and I made the plans to fly back before Christmas and meet the family members that we already knew already. And in between, after we had made that choice, I got a Facebook friend request from my dad, Ed.
Which at that point in time, you didn't yet know he was your dad.
He didn't know
there was
about
still
me.
this possibility that, Ed and his brother could have another mystery brother they didn't know about because their dad, because the grandfather level was uncertain. Yeah, at that point, when that Facebook friend request popped up, what was that like? What did that feel like?
Well, I was pretty much freaking out. I had already kind of Facebook stalked them, and I knew that probably his younger brother most likely was not my father because he would have been about 14 or 15 when I was conceived. It could have been possible, but I knew my mom was about 16 or 17. She was kind of a wild child, and I knew more than likely it was probably going to be Ed, but I, again, wasn't for certain. I had already ruled out another mystery brother. And the reason I ruled that out is because the amount of DNA that I am related to my aunt, it couldn't be a half brother. It had to have been a whole brother with the same mother and same father for the percentage of DNA. But I didn't want to kind of push back on her. I wanted her to be comfortable meeting me and just kind of leave everything just, at her pace. So I knew it was one of the two, and most likely was Ed. And so when I got the Facebook friend request from him, I, wasn't aware that he even knew about me. And I was super excited and freaking out and didn't know how to even proceed. I'm telling my husband, how do I even reply to this? What do I do? And so for all the years since I was about 11 years old, I had been looking. And then, all of a sudden, all this happened in the space of 2 weeks, finding my aunt and then kind of really identifying who I really thought my dad was.
I will make a side note because I can see your faces as we're having this conversation. And Ed has a big smile across his face. So that tells me, a little bit about how he's feeling as you retell this story that he's also a part of. Ed, would you go back in time to 2020 and tell us a little bit about how it came to be that you were sending a Facebook friends request to someone that you didn't know until that moment?
Well, my sister, she came to me and she said,
Did she come to you in person or call you up on the phone?
She came to me in person. She said, we need to talk, and she said, I got something I want to tell you. And so she told me, she says, I think it's possible that you have a daughter that you didn't know existed. And I'm like, whoa, wait. I was, 68 at the time, just an old dog country boy. And, the idea just kind of froze me for a while. But she and I talked, and she told me the situation that she'd been communicating with Cammie and how her daughter and her granddaughter had found her and all this stuff. And, so I talked to my sister, and our dad was kind of a scoundrel, and we had always suspected that we probably maybe had half sisters and brothers out there. It wouldn't have surprised us. And I said, how old is she and all this stuff? And I'm thinking back and I'm going, no, Ed, I don't think so. I can't remember anything. So, but I said, here's the deal. I want to know. So we'll put this to rest. I'll get a 23andMe test and send it off, and we'll find out for sure. And my sister told me who she was, and I thought, I thought about it, and I thought, gosh, I really have to know. So The easiest way to get in touch with her was to send her a Facebook request and say, introduce myself.
Was this the same day, like day of your sister came to you, or did you need a little time to process?
I think I thought about it that night and then did it the next day. Don't remember for sure, but it was pretty quick.
So it was within days. It wasn't like you thought about it for weeks before you ordered a DNA test or before you sent the request.
I sat right down and sent off for the DNA test and got it and took care of it. But anyway, we started talking on Facebook after that because I wanted to know, is this really possible? So, yeah.
Did you notice family resemblance? That's a question for both of you. Did you notice that when you first saw a picture?
Yeah, I did.
I just noticed our nose at first. And then when we actually met up in person, that's when I really realized it, especially because my mom's side of the family is very tall and I'm the only person that it skipped. And so when I was at my dad's house and I got to meet my brother for the first time and my other brother, and I'm looking across and everybody's kind of eye level to me, very close. I was like, oh, and our noses. And So first, just looking at pictures, as a teenager, I look very, very similar to my brother Ken, like super similar. So it took me just a little bit, and then I was like, oh, there it is. Yeah.
You noticed.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you referred to Ed as dad. When did this has come up in other conversations that I've had with bio dads in the past, is that what do you call a new family member that you didn't know until adulthood? How did that come to be, calling Ed dad?
After we met for the first time, when we left that meeting, so when I went to Illinois, Ed and I, in between, he said, I know that you're coming here to meet Carolyn. I'd like to meet with you too. Are you comfortable with that? And I said, yeah, I would love it. And so it turned into a bigger meeting than I anticipated. And after we left that meeting, I also got to meet my oldest brother and the other family that I had already been talking to, and my dad's wife, Julie, who is just amazing. And afterwards, my dad wrote me a letter. And it was probably like the best gift, one of the best gifts I could have received. And he told me in it that he would like to be a part of my life. And if I wanted to, I could call him dad. And it was really just what I was comfortable with. If you're comfortable with it, if you're not, whatever that looks like. And everything that was between us, I could feel the hesitation. I could feel the curiosity. I could feel there was just so many emotions and so much. There was fear. There was excitement. There was so much. And I was a little closed off at first because, I'm in my mid 40s at the time. And I'm like, I don't need a dad. I'm grown. I'm really looking for some, medical history, some family history that I don't have. And it was kind of a protection thing for me. But what I came to realize really quickly is I did need my dad, and I just didn't know it. So as soon as I got the letter, it really helped that barrier kind of come down, and it just felt good and it felt right. And the way that Ed embraced me was really like a gift. It wasn't a burden. It was a gift that he was being given, and I felt that. And that is also what made me more comfortable calling him dad, because you just really don't know how people are going to take things. And, everybody's nervous, everybody's scared, everybody's wondering how is this going to shake out. But there was just so much love in the family that it just kind of overcame that. And the first time my brother called me, I picked up the phone and I said, hello. And he goes, hello, sister, this is your brother. And that's literally the first thing that he ever said to me. And that's how this family has been. And so it was really easy for me to feel comfortable doing that.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that with me. Ed, tell me about this letter that you wrote.
Well, we met for the first time, and going home, it was, driving home that night, I thought a lot about it. I was, completely, the gamut of emotions was going, basically what Cammie talked about, curiosity, fear. And I thought a lot about it. The next morning, the morning after, with my first cup of coffee, was probably one of the toughest mornings I've spent in my life like that, because it was like, okay, the question in my mind is, here's this very personable young lady, and she impressed me, she and her husband both. And I was like, okay, she's found me, so what's she going to do with me now? And that was,
you were feeling a little bit of uncertainty.
Yes.
Like not knowing what comes next in the.
Yeah. And part of it is, Brienne, you and I have talked about this feeling I have is, when's the other shoe going to fall?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, what's she going to do with me now? And I sat down and wrote the letter and said, what are you going to do with me now? I need to know. I didn't tell her I need to know, but I did. And I said, there's several things you could do. You can say, okay, I finished my life's quest. I found my biological father. I can go back to my own life. And you and I can have this relationship where we'll send each other Christmas cards or maybe birthday cards, and we'll keep in touch that way, and it won't be any big deal. But if you want a dad and or need a dad, I'm right here, and I would be more than proud to be that and to be your dad. And I sent a letter off to her and crossed my fingers and hope she wanted a dad, you know. Yeah.
I love that. So I love that you were able to put into words right away, really. I mean, the very next morning, you were able to identify what is it that was you wanted her to know. And I wonder if that process of writing the letter also helped you understand for yourself what you wanted or needed.
Oh, yes, very much so. And it did. I put my thoughts into words, and it kind of helped me organize those thoughts. Otherwise, you know, thoughts rattle around in my head. And if I don't say them, or especially if I don't write them, you know, sometimes I lose them and they don't get properly expressed.
This seems like a good time to point out that you wrote a guest blog post for the Watershed blog and used the pseudonym Ted.
Yeah.
Ed and Ted are the same person. And tell me a little bit about how writing out your thoughts has helped you in this particular life experience, because there's not really anything else. This hasn't happened to you before. This was the first and only time this has happened to you.
Yeah.
So how did writing about it, what did that do for you?
It gave me the opportunity to organize those thoughts and to really think about all the aspects of what was going on. And, you know, I didn't know anything about all this DNA surprise, 23andMe, what the heck is that, you know? And so it gave me, the process of writing gave me an understanding of a lot of it that if I hadn't been putting my thoughts in writing, I don't know if I would have got around to really understanding a lot of it right. It helps tremendously for me. It does. In our communications back and forth. I actually, and I've never told Cammie this, I've actually, at one point in time, our threads of Facebook messages, you know, I went back and copied all those and pasted them in a Word document, and I've reread them a couple of times, and, you know, that helps. It really does. And of course, Brienne, you were front and center in that blog post because you fired off some questions for me that the answers helped me. I incorporated the answers into the post, and you've been great about this all the way through. And you asked some tough questions that really made me think, and that was a big help. It really was.
Yeah, that was, you know, and I had a lot of curiosity about your experience, because it's not, what you went through is not anything I will ever go through. And I was just curious to understand more about what that was like for you. And so when I started asking you questions, and I was like, oh, well, maybe now it makes me curious about this. And there were some times when I asked you some questions that I think were pretty tough. And took you a little longer to answer those ones, which I can appreciate and understand. But you did all the hard work. You did the hard work of actually responding when you didn't have to.
Yeah. And I think when I did write it, I shared it with Cammie because I wanted her to know and to understand, some of what I was feeling too. And I think just writing it and then being able to share it with Cammie helped too.
I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about the people in your lives, because, the two of you are the most directly impacted by this surprise DNA match. But there are a lot of people in the ripples of your experience and of your story. And you don't have to name anyone by name or position in the family. But I guess my first question is, did everyone have a reaction like the two of you did, where immediately it was open arms and curiosity and let's explore this? Or did anybody have hesitations or a desire to kind of slow down?
Well, for me, when it dawned on me, when the test came back and, yep, Cammie's my daughter, no doubt about it. Some of the first thoughts through my head is, oh my gosh, I have to tell my wife. I have to tell Julie. I have to tell my kids that I raised, 2 sons and a daughter. And oh my gosh, I got to go tell my mom.
Was that a scary thought?
Oh, it was. And to start out, it was kind of scary. But
how old was your mom?
Mom would have been 90.
So mom's still scary, even when she's 90, right?
Yeah, she was 89 and going on 90 at the time. But I'm blessed with a lot of great family. And my wife, Julie, she's a retired social worker. And she has been one of the biggest helps for me with this whole process. Bless her heart, she understands, and she can talk to my kids in ways that I can't. And it's been she has been just a godsend through the whole thing. She was shocked when I told her. She was the first one I told. And she was shocked for a little while. And then she come around and she's been a blessing through the whole thing. My kids, and, I told Julie, I said, I got to tell the kids. And they're all scattered out. They're not close. I can't run across town and talk to them. I got to pick up the phone, or drive several hours. So it wasn't easy, and they were all adults. They're a little bit older than Cammie, so they're not kids. I call them kids, but they're not kids. So I picked the low-hanging fruit and called. I figured my youngest son, Ken, I'm calling him the low-hanging fruit. He was pretty easy to talk to, and I knew that he would be probably more than likely a little more understanding. So I called him, and he was in Florida, living in Florida. And I called him and said, son, I got something I want to talk about. And he was like, well, what'd you do, Dad? And and I talked to him and told him, and he started, of course, asking the questions. How old is she? Where she live? What? Told him about going to visit and meeting her and everything. And because he at this time didn't know that we had. So, and while I'm talking to him, lo and behold, I hear the keyboard clacking. And he's pulling her up on Facebook, and he goes, "What's her number?" And the next thing I know, he's calling her, So
wow, and this is within the same conversation.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I was like totally shocked, and of course, totally thankful. And bless his heart, he was great. And I thought, well, it didn't go too bad here. Let's try the other two. And they were great about it. They really were. My kids, both of them, Steve and Kathy, were just wonderful about it. And they were adults. They understood. And of course, all 3 of those I raised with my first wife. Julie is my second wife. So, but they understood. They were great. It was quite a much easier accomplishment than I had imagined.
That's good. Really good to hear.
Yeah.
Cammie, did you have people in your life that you had to tell, and how were their reactions?
Yeah, everyone in my life besides my mother was excited. I actually didn't tell my mother for a couple of years. My husband was excited for me, my kids. Other family members had known that I was looking for my father, and they were excited for me. it had been something that had just kind of hung over my head. And I would think one of the reasons it was such a big deal for me is I don't have a lot of family on my mom's side. It's very dysfunctional. I don't have the greatest relationship with my mother. And so I didn't have a lot of family at all. And the family I did have was pretty dysfunctional, but everyone was very excited. My grandmother, my mom's sisters knew, but no one told my mom. And so everyone was very excited, very supportive. And, when I was looking for my dad, I had certain feelings for him about how much of a shock this was, because I knew I had a father out there. I just didn't know who he was. But for him, this was a totally different, situation. Like, that's pretty shocking. For me, it was just like, who is it? Right. And I never in a million years thought I really had no hope. I had given up hope. And so it was very exciting. And I didn't tell my mom till about 2 years ago. And I really didn't feel like there was a reason to. We're not very close, and she has some mental disorders and challenges. And so it wasn't going to be a great conversation, but there was nobody that was negative about it. I'm really thankful. So it was pretty wonderful. And how his family embraced me was even more impressive and amazing. I really feel like I hit the jackpot for sure. It couldn't have gone any better.
That's so good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has the definition of family changed for either of you since this change in your day-to-day life in regards to family? And
I personally don't think so. This family has embraced me like I've always been there. Even my grandma, I got to spend the last 5 years getting to know her before she passed this last year. And she treated me like every other grandchild. She treated my kids like every other great grandchild. So I feel like even though it's a newer family, it's not my new family anymore. I'm just part of the family. And I never thought that would be something that would be possible. That I feel more normal and more supported than some other family members that I grew up with. So it's pretty unbelievable, especially in these kinds of situations, reading like Facebook groups and things like that of like people that have found their family members and it hasn't worked out really well. I feel like I definitely hit, the lottery in that way.
Ed, we never got to hear how it went telling your mother about her new grandchild.
Well, it was interesting. Her eyesight was starting to fail, and at the time, but she could still see. She couldn't read anymore, but she could see most of the television. So I took my rather large laptop with me and went over and sat down next to her and told her. I said, about finding out that I have a daughter, and of course, she was like, I got kind of a side-eye look, that I have seen before from my mother when I was growing up, and she called me by my full name, which has always been indicative, but me being in trouble. But then, she started asking the questions. How old is she? Where is she from? I was immediately curious. So I opened up my laptop and I went to Cammie's Facebook page and said, well, here she is. And and with the laptop on her lap, she could see it very well. And I explained to her and, showed her picture. And of course, we haven't mentioned this either hardly, but I got a bonus out of this whole thing. I have a granddaughter I didn't know existed. Cammie's daughter, Chloe. And of course, told Mom all about Chloe. And so it went well after a while. My stepdad, now he was sitting over there laughing. He was chuckling through the whole process, watching my mom, he got quite a laugh.
As an observer, he was entertained.
Yes. Oh, yes. He was quite entertained. Quite entertained. But so it went well. And Mom was, in fact, if I remember correctly, that Christmas, we set up a Zoom call for Mom at her place where she could actually talk to Cammie by Zoom, and several of the family members joined and stuff. And one of the things I did right off the get-go, but I cleared it with Cammie before I actually did it. In my family, on both sides, my mother's side and my dad's side, we had a Facebook page just for the family. And I wanted everybody to know, and it's the reason why I immediately called the kids. I didn't want people to find out from anybody but me. I wanted no loss of translation. Here it is. So I basically wrote a pretty long passage and posted it on both the family sites with pictures. So everybody would know. I got cousins that I dearly love, that I grew up with as kids, and several of them that I, have a lot of respect for and dearly love and am closer to. I called them personally and told them because I wanted people to know, and I wanted them to know how I felt. And I'm really tickled that I did. I think it went real well. Everybody was so accepting, and there was no negativity. It just was the response that just really was very good.
I got about 45 Facebook friend requests, and that was pretty awesome too. It is not a small family at all.
No, there was my dad and my mother both had a lot of siblings. And so I have a ton of cousins and had aunts and uncles. My mom passed away last year, and she was the last of that generation, aunts and uncles and all that. But yeah, it went really well. I was very happy that I did.
Now, Ed, you have a blended family in multiple generations. So there are, step siblings, there are second marriages. Do you think that might have influenced how the family accepted Cammie? Because it wasn't just, a nuclear family of you and two kids or something. It was. I
think it did. Like you said, I'm from a blended family. I'm the oldest of 9. My mom had 5 and my stepdad had 4. We all lived together. I was 17 when they married. So it just stair-stepped down from there. And I think I wrote about it some, and I always think about them a lot. I was blessed with some really great grandparents on both sides that I seen. My grandparents on both sides of the family, especially on my dad's side, were very accepting of outsiders and strangers and friendly. And I seen my grandparents, my grandpa and grandmother on my dad's side they would reach out to, and they didn't have much. They were pretty poor, and they always led by example. And I seen them a lot of times share what they had with people that didn't have. It impressed me and gave me an education about life and about people that I was very blessed to have. And I think that the acceptance was just wonderful. It was a wonderful experience for me growing up.
Cammie, what has that been like, not really having a large family to suddenly you're in your mid-40s and there's family everywhere sending you Facebook friend requests? Has it ever been too much?
No. Well, actually, I'll say the only time it's been too much is coming back for a visit with a really large gathering. I am just not used to a lot of people. I do have ADHD and also autism, so I do get overwhelmed a lot, but I also try to prepare myself ahead of time. So when we did have a family reunion, I said to myself, okay, if there's somebody you haven't met yet in person, you're going to be the one to go up to them and shake their hand and say, I'm Ed's daughter. I'm Cammie. It's so nice to meet you, or I haven't met you yet. And so I made myself do that so I could really honor all the love and compassion that this family has shown to me. But besides that, it has really been, I would say, a structure for me, a framework. I'm really close to my brother, Ken, the first person that my dad called, the one that, I answered the phone and he's like, hi, sis, I can't wait to meet you. I'm so excited. And him and I are so similar in so many ways that we're really close, and he gives really good advice. And, my dad, there's times that I need advice. I need parenting advice. I need just life advice. And so it has really been life-changing for me. I would say the only time it was overwhelming is when everybody's in such a large group together, just because I've never experienced that. But I'm more and more comfortable with it every time. So it's pretty great. And even like one of his cousins lives in California, not too far from me. We have friends that live in the same area. And he's like, next time you're down here, you come over for a day and stay the night. And I don't even feel weird about it. They came to Reno and I'm like, let's go to lunch. Let's go to dinner. And it just is what it is. It feels like I've been part of the family the whole time. It really does. That's how they've made me feel. And so it has just been really overwhelming with love and acceptance, which is pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
One of the things also, my wife, Julie, she's got a small family. It's not very big, just her siblings. She's got 2 sisters and had 2 brothers, and she got a niece and a couple of nephews, and they're a great family. And I included them, right from the get-go and said, hey, look, this is what's going on, and told them about Cammie, and everybody's been great there too. We just recently moved. We got closer to Julie's family geographically. And when we're together, invariably somebody will say, have you heard from Cammie? What have you heard from Cammie? So, that's been good too.
Are you within driving distance or do you have to fly?
Oh, with Cammie, we have to fly. Yeah.
I'm in Reno, Nevada. And they're in Illinois. But yeah, we've gone camping together. And as far as Julie goes, I couldn't also be more lucky, blessed, everything. I wasn't sure how she would feel about me. And, her being a social worker has also helped me to acclimate to the family. And she's very understanding of where I come from. And she, at this point, is the closest thing that I have to a mother. And so while I worked out the calling my dad right away, I'm still trying to figure out, I call her Julie, but, for Mother's Day, I told her Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for, being such an amazing role model and so close. And I'm still trying to figure that part out. And it feels like I don't know, she's just Julie, but she is very much a mother figure to me. And I'm so thankful for that. I call her for advice too. And she's amazing. So very lucky.
I feel like the ability to communicate about your feelings and also be aware of everybody else in the family, that's probably a strength that Julie had predating going and getting her social work degree. So it sounds like that's just part of her core.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing about how overwhelming the in-person gathering was. And for disclosing also that you're neurodivergent, because I think I'm also late in life discovering neurodivergent, and that really does influence how we experience other people and being around other people and energy levels and groups and crowds. So good on you for doing that hard thing of going up and introducing yourself to others. That had to be hard, but worth it.
I watched her in that whole process, and I was extremely proud of her. Yeah, it did me a lot of good just watching.
They made it easy. They really did. I felt safe and welcomed, and it just is. It's a little uncomfortable, but after that, it's only weird the first time. So.
I like that's going to be a good. It's only weird the first time. That's the pull quote.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of my mottos.
We're getting near the end of our conversation. I am hoping that each of you could share something with me that has been a helpful comment another person has made regarding the situation and a very unhelpful comment.
I can't think of anything that I've heard that has been unhelpful, really, because I've not heard any negativity. And of course, in my situation, you're watching out for it. You're listening for it. If it happens, you're going to hear it. It's not going to bypass you. But, everybody's been so great. Cammie Jesus, how lucky can a fella get? And And that has amazed me sometimes. It's like through this whole process, and I'm going to share something here that's kind of off the topic of your question, but my daughter, Kathy, my first wife and I adopted her when she was 7 years old. And through this whole process, I have learned a lot just about how adoptees feel, and have been able to understand Kathy and the things that happened with her a lot better. And I've thought about it a lot. It's like, I should have done this differently. I should have done that differently. I wish I had done this differently. And I've talked to Kathy about it sometimes. And this whole process with Cammie has helped me get closer to Kathy and understand her much better. And so, little golden nuggets everywhere throughout this whole thing for me. It's amazed me. It really has. Like I said, how lucky can one fella be? I mean, holy moly. Sometimes that is hard for me to express. It really is.
That was great.
I feel the same as far as feeling, that I won the lottery for sure. I think that hearing a lot of people said, just take it slow, which is kind of my default if I'm unsure of things. I had a relationship with my cousin for almost 2 years before we got the positive DNA test that was my dad. And so I was definitely in slow mode because I didn't want to disrupt families. That was not my intention. So people say, take it slow, just go at your own pace. That was really helpful. The only thing that I heard that made me a little sad actually came from my dad. And he had no intention of making me feel sad. But one thing that he said to me was, I wish I would have known you earlier. I wish I would have known earlier. I wish I would have, I had a tumultuous childhood and there's always the shoulda, coulda, woulda. I think things happen. The universe brings you things when you're ready for it. Who knows if it was 20 years earlier, who knows how he would have taken it or not taken it. Or, I do really believe that things happen when they're supposed to happen. And I'm so thankful for the relationship that we have. And it made me sad that he felt that way. And I wanted to take that away from him because he has no control over that. He only has control over what you can do when you could do it, when you know it. And so that did make me sad. And I always wish that I could take that from him so he didn't feel that way. But I'm just so thankful. Everybody has been really supportive. No one has been really negative. Even when I told my mom a couple of years ago, she took it really well. She's never brought it up again. We've never really spoke about it. And that's just fine. It has nothing to do with her. And I'm just more than thankful that if my dad hadn't written a letter, if he hadn't been so gracious, if he hadn't really put it out there, I don't know that I could have taken that wall down and said, yeah, I actually need a dad. I didn't know that I did, but I actually do. And so I'm really thankful for that.
This has been a wonderful conversation. So happy to witness how things have gone for both of you and your families. And I hope the next family reunion is just as big and hopefully not as overwhelming as the last one. Do you guys have plans to see each other again soon?
I'm making plans to come back to visit. We don't have a family reunion scheduled yet, but I'm actually trying to get back in the next couple months just to visit. And, I try to on a regular basis. So I just got done with school and things are going a little bit easier. So I'm going to we try to see each other, go back at least every other Thanksgiving to spend with the big family. And we try to make it back and forth a couple times a year too.
Yeah. And don't forget, Margaritaville's coming up.
Yes, Margaritaville. Yes.
I remember hearing about Margaritaville, the wings and margarita weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, can I join this family for this party?
You sure
Brianne, everyone would love to have you and you would have the best time for sure. Oh my gosh. They know how to party for sure.
They know how to party. I love that. How to party. Thank you both so much. It's been a wonderful conversation. And if any listeners have follow-up questions, would you be willing to answer them?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Totally. Yeah, please. Thank you, Brianne.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of DNA Clarity and Support. This is Brian, founder of Watershed DNA. Check out the show notes for information discussed in today's episode and head over to watersheddna.com to sign up for our email list. Never miss out on notification of new resources available in the world of DNA testing.